All right. This is Psych 150, and my name is Roger Rossman. I'm not a Dr. Rossman because I don't have my PhD. I have a master's degree in psychology. I've been teaching here for 16 years, full-time and some part-time as well. I wanted to be a veterinarian, went to the University of Georgia and studied biology for 5 years, could not get into vet school, and eventually decided that it was not worth pursuing anymore. And so I decided to go to psychology because psychologists get to work with animals as well. So I could still work with animals. And I don't mean students. I mean, I can teach a dog tricks. I can teach a cat tricks. I can teach a dog not to be afraid of lightning and thunder. We teach bees and we teach rats and dogs to sniff out drugs and explosives. We do all kinds of work for the military and for zoos as well and other organizations. So as a psychologist, I could work with animals, and that made me feel good because that's what I wanted to do in the first place. But then with my psychology degree, I actually was studying using computers in 1984, and the computer revolution had just begun. The internet didn't even exist back in 1984, and I fell in love with computers, so I went back to school, and I got 3 more degrees in computer science, computer electronics, and computer programming, and that's how I ended up being a computer teacher for psychology. So that's my background. This class has been developed for online as well as face-to-face. And because of COVID, we can't be face-to-face, but at least you can see me. And I ask that you do not turn on your video cameras, because for every video camera that is turned on, it takes up bandwidth. And there are some students who have very low internet connectivity, and the more the videos are on, the worse their connectivity becomes. So if we keep all of our cameras off, that'd be great. You don't have to use the microphones, but all of you, I just made sure that you could hear me and that you could talk back and say something. If you don't use the microphones, you can chat, and I have the chat box open all the time. I'm watching the chat box so you can chat. If I ask a question that requires a yes or no answer, I prefer that you type yes or no in the chat box. And if I ask if there are any questions, most of you will be typing no, but the people who have a question might be typing to type the question. Your best response if you have a question is to say yes and hit the enter key and then start typing your question so that I know to wait until you are finished with your question and type in the enter key so I can see what the question is. Otherwise, I don't know that you're typing. So if I ask the question, are there any questions? Type in no or yes. So I got a good feel for the fact that you're listening and for the fact that you do or do not have questions for me. At any time, before I ask the question, no, that's correct. If at any time you have a question, you may type in the question while I'm talking, and I will see that the question comes in, and I'll pause and try to answer that question. Okay. I have my cell phone on as well. You can, if you're looking at the participants, you can see Roger's cell. That's my cell phone. I've got it right next to me so that I can see what you see, so I know that I haven't lost you. And also, I don't have on that audio, or we get feedback through my phone, through the microphone here, back through the phone again. So I can't hear what I'm saying to you, but I can see that there is something on the screen that you guys are looking at. This today is just a get to know the class day. It's really not about any of the data that we're going to have to learn in the class. You want to know how the class runs. We'll go through that today. Most days we will take up all that time. There is a difference in my class from other classes, and that is that what you see on the screen here is a menu system. If you click on something in the menu system, the screen will flash, and then the next thing down will be that particular thing, whatever it was you clicked on. So for instance, social psychology, if I click on social psychology, the screen flashes, and then I can scroll down, and the next thing down is social psychology. In a lot of classes for Moodle, because it's a flat file system, you just scroll and scroll and scroll to get the things. At least this way, you can get to what you want to faster without that endless scroll. The things in yellow are what we're working on. So we're working on the first day activities. They are due August 26th. That date for due date is always here. You've got August 29th, which is when the history and science section is due, and then September 5th for the biology section. And then we've got two things on the development section, September 12th and 13th. The development information is due on Saturday, and all these dates are Saturdays except for this one. This one's not a Saturday, but this is a Saturday date, Saturday date, Saturday date, and then the test is a Sunday date. All tests are due on Sundays. The tests will come online on Tuesdays. You can take them anytime between Tuesday and Sunday. They are open book and open notes. This is an internet class type connection, and even in my face-to-face classes, when we have face-to-face before COVID, all of my tests are online, and all of my tests are open book, open notes. Don't cheer, because that means they're a little harder than a normal test might be, because I'm assuming that you are using your books and your notes. So they are also timed. They are 30 questions in 30 minutes. Each test takes up 2 sections. So for instance, the history and biology section is on test 1, and there are 15 questions from history and science and 15 questions from the biopsych section on that test. When you start the test, you have to finish the test within 30 minutes. You can't pause it. There's no pausing of the test. So once you start it, you have to make sure that you've got 30 minutes of uninterrupted time so that you can finish the test. Make sure your spouse is taking care of the kids. You're locked in a room alone. Your siblings are being controlled so that they're not interrupting you while you're taking the test. Make sure you have 30 minutes of uninterrupted time. Anytime until Sunday around 11:30, because it closes at 11:59 and you have 30 minutes. So if you don't start it, if you start it any time after 11:30, you're not going to have your 30 minutes because it closes at 11:59 at night on Sunday night. And today we're just going over the way the class works. So that's what tests are. Now the tests, to make it a little easier also, the tests questions come from the quiz questions, although they're edited and changed just slightly so that they're not exactly the same question, because I don't want you to regurgitate what you learned on the quizzes. I want you to be able to explain the information, that you know the information. So the test questions are very similar to the quiz questions, but not exactly the same. The quiz questions, there's a quiz for every single section. And the quizzes are open all the time. Once they are open, they do not close. And you can take them over and over and over again. And the reason I do that is because your highest grade counts. So once you have a 100 on the quizzes, you should not stop taking them. Put your books aside, put your notes aside, take the quiz and see what you know without your books and your notes, and that tells you whether you really know the information or not. So that score doesn't matter. You can get a 10 or a 20 or a 2 on that. You already got your 100, and the 100 is the one that counts. So it opens up your ability to just take it without any pressure and see what you really know without your books and notes. If you can do the quizzes without books and notes and get in the 80s and 90s, then you're going to do really well on tests. Just be sure that you don't read the first two words on the test question and assume it's the exact same question as the quiz. It won't be. Many times it will be slightly different. I can change one word and change the answer. So be very aware of the questions on the tests. That's tests and quizzes. Discussions are a little different in my class because I have them set up so that you have to post one time before you see anybody else. So let me click on the history and science section so you see what it looks like. It just flashed. Here's the history and science section. First of all, there's a link to the books chapters. So the chapter for history, the chapter for research. When you click on it, let me click on this one, chapter for research, and up pops the PDF for that particular section of the book. So I have those in every single section. So this is the version 1 of Psychology OpenStax. There's actually a version 2 out right now, and they have actually changed the version based on some feedback that they got from myself and Beth Hughes and Tammy Kelly, who are the other 2 psychology instructors for us. They actually took our suggestions and made the book, we think, better in the second version, but I don't have the second version up yet. It doesn't matter. You use the first version, it's fine. So that's the links to the book, chapters, and every single unit looks exactly the same. The book chapter links are the first things you're going to see. Then learning objectives, the things that you need to know, what you're going to learn in this section. And then the lectures that I have out there in the world. Let me click on that. This is the history of psychology, number 1 of 4. And this is my lecture that I present to my students in class. And I've transcribed them and put them out here. This one it's about 20 minutes per screen. So there's 4 different screens here for each one of the different 20-minute sections of that lecture. I've also recorded some of them, but not all of them yet, reading the transcribed lecture. So it's sort of like an audio book, and that's at the bottom. The bottom has that. So if I click on it right here.
Pink. Every day I fight a war against the mirror. I can't take the person looking back at me. I'm a hazard to myself.
So I'm just reading through the lecture that I would normally have given for that particular section. And this helps students to refresh. It also helps them if they miss a day. It helps if we have a hurricane, and when the electricity comes back up, we can look at these lectures instead of having to double up on time or come back at another day. You've got all the lectures out there, and I have like some songs out there for you guys to listen to.
Hated me. My parents hated me. I was always in a fight because I can't do nothing right. Every day I fight a war against a mirror. I can't take the person staring back at me. I'm a hazard to myself.
That is a perfect psychology song, and that's why I put it in here. I can only put in about 20 seconds of it legally, but if you like it, that's Pink. Don't Let Me Get Me, and you can go out and actually get that particular song somewhere like on the internet. Each one of the sections of our class is up here in the corner. This is a menu, so if I click on that menu, You get the menu of all of the different sections that we're going to be covering, and every section has some kind of a song that's associated with it. All of them are transcribed, but not all of them yet have an audio recording of it. This one is the science and psychology section, and as you can see, the song I picked was Weird Science. Because, yes, psychology is a weird science. It's not a hard science like physics or biology or chemistry, and so is sociology and so is history. They are sciences in certain specific ways, and we'll talk about those ways when we get to that particular section, the science of psychology, and why it's called a science and not a pseudoscience. And I also have some videos that you can watch as well in these lectures. The videos, there's two always at the very beginning. One from Dr. Zimbardo, who's still alive today. He did the Stanford Prison Experiment, which we will talk about in the very last section of this class, because it was a really gruesome experiment done with students at Stanford University, and his research is the reason why today we have the independent review boards which say, no, you can't do that experiment. That was his experiment, and there were a couple of others that caused the government to say, we need some independent review boards. Then there's the crash course people, and if you've ever seen the crash course, there's crash course in history, there's a crash course in psychology, crash course in other courses. That guy just talks really, really fast. And I'm wondering if he's ever going to take a breath or not. And a lot of young students like the crash course, and a lot of older students like the slower paced psychology introduction that Dr. Zimbardo does for each one of these sections. You can look at either one or both and get a lot of information from them. I think that's it about this. I have some, there's a hangman type of game out there to try to help you to learn the material. And there's also flashcards, but I haven't really worked with those flashcards yet. I'm still trying to record all the audios before I get back to all these flashcards. But there's your flashcards. You just point to it and it pops up. Also, the crossword puzzles, they work. All the crossword puzzles work. Oop, that one's not found. I wonder why I have to. It's out there. Okay. So I will have to figure out why that didn't work. But in most cases, yeah. In most cases, the crossword puzzle will pop up. The internet's kind of slow today, but there you go. There's the crossword puzzle. When we get to the memory section, you'll find out why crossword puzzles are so important, and I'll tell you right now why, but we'll reiterate that in the memory section. There are two different types of memory: recall memory and recognition memory. Recognition memory is the kind of thing we have when we take a test with multiple choice. You like multiple choice. Almost every student, 99% of students, want multiple choice questions. They do not want fill-in-the-blank questions, because a multiple choice question gives you some answers, A, B, C, D, and you can recognize the answer if it's given to you. So that's recognition memory. It's not very strong memory, and you need to be able to see something to remember what it is that you're trying to remember. With recall memory, you have very strong memory, and that's a crossword puzzle, because there's very little in a crossword puzzle that they give you to try to figure out what it is that they're looking for. So if you can fill out a crossword puzzle, you know the information really well. So this is a way just to test yourself with the crossword puzzles, and it's fun. My search routines do not work yet, but eventually what I'm going to do is have an ability for you to search a particular term, and it will tell you what page it appears on. That's my lectures. Are there any questions about the lectures? This is where you would type in no. There you go. No, 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 no. Good. Very good. Okay. And I wanted to go down to the discussion boards. This is where I started in this conversation. So this is the discussion board. This is the quiz. Notice that there's a link to print the quiz. That's a PDF also. You just print out the quiz, then look up all the answers. Then you come down to the actual quiz online and just transfer the information from the page to the internet quiz, and then submit it to see if, and it'll tell you how many you get right and how many you got wrong. Circle all the ones that you got wrong on the piece of paper, go back and try to figure out why until you get your 100%, and then you have a piece of paper that has all the answers on it, correct answers marked, and that is notes that you can use for your test. But remember, the quiz questions on the test are not exactly the same, so for that material, if you know why that answer was the answer on the quiz, then when I change the words in the test, you'll know what the change means as well. The discussion forum, when you click on the discussion forum, it tells you in blue what I'm really looking for is in blue, and a lot of other information about directions on how to do this. Always post 5 sentences. You need 5 sentences to get credit. You can certainly, if somebody posts a really good response, you can post "atta girl" or "way to go" or you got it, but that doesn't give you a point on discussions. You have to have 5 sentences to get your point. There are 2 points on discussion. The first one is your answer to my question. For this particular one, which of these approaches makes most sense to you and why? You have to answer that with 5 questions. But you can't answer it here because there's no place to reply to. And you don't get this "add a new question." You see different approaches down here. The discussion with an arrow pointing down, just some students just lose it right there. Click on that link, and then you can now click on reply to my answer. And you won't see anybody else's answer. You'll only see this for the first part until you reply with your 5 sentences and submit that reply, and then you'll see everybody else's answers about 30 minutes later. But after you've posted, you'll have to wait and then come back later and see everybody else's answers. And then you have to reply to one other person. And that gives you your second point on discussions. Discussions are worth 2 points. And there are 7 of them. That makes 14 points altogether. And they have to have 5 sentences or you don't get a point for that. Why do I say 5 sentences? Does anybody have any idea why I say 5 sentences? Have you been taught that in English? Nobody knows. 5 sentences, yes. Morgan, got it, yes. 5 sentences makes an entire paragraph. The first sentence is the introduction. The second one, third one, and fourth one are body paragraphs. And the 5th one is the concluding paragraph. Now, I'm not going to ask you to do the proper type of introduction, body, and discussion and conclusion, but I am going to require you to do all 5 sentences, because in social sciences, one of the things that we're supposed to do is to teach you something about writing. And I'm not an English teacher, so I'm not going to judge your English as long as I understand what it is you're trying to say and you have given an opinion and supported that opinion. I'm fine with that. If I can understand what it is you're trying to do, that's good enough for me. Now, you do have to start with a capital letter, and I is always capitalized, and you end a sentence with a period, an exclamation point, or a question mark. A semicolon does not end a sentence. A sentence with a semicolon after it is a compound sentence, and it doesn't count but one sentence. So I'm trying to teach you that in this class. 5 sentences is a paragraph. And when you get to the end of the semester, there's one more writing assignment, and that's an essay. And we'll talk about the essay in just a minute. We'll, in the essays, every paragraph has 5 sentences or more. But an essay is an essay because it has 5 paragraphs altogether, not 2 paragraphs, not 3 paragraphs. It has 5 or more paragraphs in it, and at least 5 of those paragraphs have to have 5 sentences or it doesn't count as an essay. And we'll talk about that essay in just a minute. So that's how you run with the discussions, right? You open the discussion up, then click on the underneath the discussion, the one connection underneath the discussion, and then you can reply to, I'll have posted the exact same thing again. It's just the way that Moodle works. My Courses is Moodle. My Courses works. A lot of people say, why do you say My Moodle or My Courses is the same thing? Because a Ford and an Escort are the same thing. Moodle is the Ford. My Courses is the Escort. All right, let's go back to the beginning of this class, which is right here. So the first day activities is what's needed to be done immediately. It's due on the 26th, but you can't get to this section until you complete this section. So this is due on the 29th. If you want only 3 days to get all this work done, then wait until the 26th to get it done. Otherwise, get it done sooner so that you have more time to get this one done. When we're on the 27th, this will turn brown, meaning it's over. On the 30th, this one will turn brown, and this one will turn yellow because we're now working on the next section. But I also already have the next section open. And every time I open one, I'll open the next one. Every time we change to working on one section, the next one will also be open. So you can work ahead, at least 1 week ahead. That way, if you're going on vacation or got something coming up, then you can work ahead, get it done, and don't have to worry about it, except for the tests. And if you're going to be gone during a test, then get a hold of me, and we'll work something out for you taking it early or late. But don't just forget about a test. If you're out somewhere without internet access, I understand you can't take the test because you're going to be out in the mountains hiking, but find me and let me know that that's what you're going to be doing. So the first day activities, first things you need to do are right here. There's an instruction for you to do specific things, tasks. Click on that, open it up, do the tasks that are in it. Make sure you get the enrollment verification done. If that isn't done, you get dropped out of the class. So that's really important. Get that done. And that is the same in every single class. It doesn't matter what class you're in. Every single one of them has the enrollment verification quiz. It's the exact same quiz in every single one of them, unless the teachers changed it somehow. And you have to get it done in every single class. It's a duplication of effort, but it proves to the federal government that you're actually in that class. So that's a fed thing. Just get it done and we're finished with it. And then there's the icebreaker, and I've already got 17 unread posts in the icebreaker. So congratulations to all you who have already gotten in and done the work, and just make sure that it was 5 sentences. If not, go back in and do another post with 5 sentences on it. And then make sure that you've got a second post in there as well, answering or talking to somebody else. There is no wrong answer to discussions. I'm asking you an opinion. If you can state your opinion and give good reason for your opinion, then great, that's your opinion. This is psychology. Everybody has a different opinion. It isn't wrong for you because I haven't walked in your shoes. I don't know what your background is. I don't know what your experiences are. And so the answer you give is based on your background, your experiences, your culture. And don't diss anybody else's answer. That's their answer. We all need to what? We all need to coexist. As long as we're not forcing people to be like us and we're accepting the way that they are, then we can all coexist. It's when people try to force other people to be a specific way that we tend to end up being in trouble. Now, of course, you can't break the law. The law is the law, and there are people who do, and some people do on purpose. They break the law because it's a bad law, and they want to prove that it's a bad law, and they know what their consequences are going to be. They're going to be arrested or put in jail, but they're doing it to prove a point. If you're doing something against the law and you can't help it, and you don't know what, you can't stop it, and you continue to do it, you have what's called a pathology. And we'll talk about pathologies in this class as well. It's chapter 12, I think. So that's the first day activities. Make sure you get them done as soon as possible so that you've got the time then to go back to the history section and do the things that are required in the history section. So that's how the class works. Now, most people want to know, how do I grade and what's the policy for grading? So the course information section has a whole host of information in it, and one of those things is the grading policy. So if I pick the grading policy and look through it, I will see that we have a number of tests. Every single test has the same point value, 10 points. There are 6 tests of 10 points each. Then there is an outcomes measurement. It also is 10 points. And there are 2 final exams, also worth 10 points each. The 2 final exams is one final exam that's split into 2 because you'd have to sit there for 110 minutes to do the entire exam. By the end of the exam, you'd be so exhausted. I remember when I was in college, long exams, by the end, you're not really giving good example of how much you know because you're exhausted. So I've split it up into 2 different parts. You do have to take both parts. But then, out of all those tests, every one of them worth 10 points, the 2 worst tests, including the final exams, are dropped. So if you do really bad on the 2 final exams, they're going to be dropped, and your grade will come from the other exams and the outcomes measurement. So do as well as you can, but sometimes, you have bad days. And so I've given the opportunity to have a bad day and to do poorly on a test and have that test just thrown out and it doesn't count toward your grade. Now, that also means there's a lot more points in this class than 100 points. And my courses doesn't know what to do with that. And so at the end of the semester, you may have an 87.5%, but you have 90 points. The 90 points counts as an A. Even though you have an 87.5%, the 90 points is what counts, because my courses really doesn't know what to do with all those extra points, and so 90 points looks like 87%, but it's 90 points as far as I'm concerned. That's an A. Now, if your percentage, and I've never had one, but if your percentage is actually higher at the end than your points, I'll take the percentage. But I haven't had that happen yet. It's always the points that are higher. Then we have quizzes, 14 quizzes, one for every single section. Remember, you can take them as often as you like, and your highest grade counts. Don't stop just because you got a high grade, like 100. Keep taking them. Once you've got the 100, push your books and notes aside and just take the quiz and see how you really know, how much you really know about that information. That's 7 points of your grade. The global essay, which we'll talk about in a minute, is 10 points of your grade, and then the 7 discussions are 14 points, or 14% of your grade. Are there any questions about the grading scheme? Okay. I see a lot of no's, so I will continue on. So that was the grading policy, and there's also the weekly schedule that's out there for you to look at for the fall of 2020, and it says fall of 19. I'm going to have to change that. So we have the first week where really nothing is due on the 26th. Remember, that's when the first day assignments have to be completed. And then the 29th is when the first unit's material has to be completed. Then the second unit, the next Saturday, units are always due on Saturdays. And then the third unit is due on Saturday as well, but so is the test due that week on Sunday. So we also have a test. The test will be online on Tuesday of that week and go offline on Sunday night at 11:59. You have to take it sometime between that time. I also tell you what things are actually due: 1 quiz, 1 discussion, 1 quiz, 1 discussion, 1 quiz, 1 discussion, plus the test. 1 quiz here, but no discussion on that one. 1 quiz, no discussion, then and a test. And 1 quiz, 1 discussion. So you've got an idea of what you're expected to do every single week. And there are no classes on October 12th and 13th. It's professional development for the teachers. There was another one. Labor Day is Monday, September 7th. There are no classes that day either. And Thursday, November 12th is the last day to withdraw from the class. You can't, after that, if you're in the class, you get the grade you earn. And then test number 6 is really different because we're coming up on Thanksgiving at that time. So it will go online like normal, but on a Monday instead of a Tuesday. But you don't have to do it that weekend because that weekend is Thanksgiving weekend. And I don't expect you to have to do something on Thanksgiving with all your relatives around. Hopefully COVID will be over and we'll be able to have a nice Thanksgiving. So test number 6 is due actually on the last day of class. The last day of class is December 7th. And then we start into the final exams. So that's when test number 6 is actually due, even though it comes online just before Thanksgiving. You can get it out of the way. You don't have to worry about it if you're comfortable with it, or you can wait until after Thanksgiving. Or if COVID's still around and we're not having Thanksgiving, you can do it during Thanksgiving. It's up to you. So that's the schedule for the class. And then we have our information about how the quizzes work, how the final exams work, but there's also cultural distinction and diversity. And that's really what psychology is all about. today. It used to be in the old days of psychology. Psychology is not much more than 100 years old. We'll talk about that in the history section, but the science of psychology. But psychology used to be dominated by American psychologists, and they thought that if it was true for white Anglo-Saxon Protestant males in the middle to upper class, then it must be true for everybody. No. First, it's not true for males. Is very different than what females think. We're completely different, almost like from Mars and from Venus. There's actually a book about that. If you ever get a chance to read that, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We're very distinctly different creatures. Our brains are different, and we think differently. But how you're brought up is also one of the ways that makes you who you are. And cultures are very different. We have individualistic cultures, and we have collectivist cultures. The United States is a very individualistic culture. China is a very collectivist culture, and it has nothing to do with communism either, which many people believe. Japan is not a communist country, but is very collectivistic. All the Asian cultures are very collectivistic. And we'll talk about collectivism and individualism in this class, but it changes the way that you view the world, the way that you've been brought up. My sister is an extremely religious Jewish person. She is a Hasidic Jew, is what it's called. And when she decided she wanted to get married, she went to the rabbi and she said, I want to get married. And the rabbi said, okay, I'll find you a husband. And he found her 5 men who wanted to get married, and they met and they talked, and one of them liked her and she liked him, and they got married. It has nothing to do with love. It has to do with an arranged marriage. And it still goes on today, depending on the culture that you grow up in. I'm not in that culture. But if you go to any city in the United States, any big city in the United States, you'll find a little China and a little Vietnam and a Latin community and a Jewish community and an Irish community. Used to be, not so much anymore. But people hang out with those that are like them. And we'll talk about that in the last section of this class. It's called self-segregation. We tend to hang on and be around people that are like us because they make us feel comfortable, and we don't like to feel uncomfortable. And people who do different things might, in some instances, make us feel uncomfortable. So cultural diversity is a big deal in psychology, and I want you to write an essay about cultural distinction, and that is the essay that you have to write at the end of the semester. So I give you everything that you need to know about how to write this in the course documents information area. You have to have 5 or more sentences per paragraph. You have to have at least 7 paragraphs, because I tell you I need an introduction, I need a conclusion, and and I need then 5 different aspects of living that make people different. And I've actually given you some of the links to the places where those are already described in my lectures. So if I click, for instance, on this one, Science and Psychology number 4, now I'll go to Consciousness of Mind. Consciousness of Mind number 5. If I click on that one, then down in the Consciousness of Mind section as number 5, if you flow down through it, you will come upon a section that says cultural diversity. And that whole section is about cultural diversity and is information you can use in your essay. So I made it real simple for you. I've pointed out the places. Now, there are places all the way through that talk about cultural diversity. For instance, the motivation lectures, they're all over the place in there about how different people are and their motivations why people are motivated in different ways, and the fact that culture changes your motivation. So you can find a lot in those places also, but you need 5 different aspects that where culture changes people depending on what culture they're in. That's the essay, and it's just all about your understanding of cultural distinction. Does that make sense? Does anybody have questions about this? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of no's. Good. If you do think of something later, then just email me and I'll respond. I always respond within 24 hours. It is, I think it's wrong for teachers to make people wait, make their students wait. I'm online almost all the time, and I've got my email up most of the time, and so I will answer within 24 hours, except during holidays and weekends. I might not answer within 24 hours on a holiday or weekend, but many times I do because I'm online anyway. So that's the cultural distinction essay. Let me go back to the main screen. To get to the tests, one thing that some students are unable to figure out, I don't put the tests inside the little areas. I have a place for tests. So when you click on that link, the screen will refresh and the tests will appear in that section. So they have a whole section just for tests, and that's how you get to your tests. The click here to access tests. I can't think of anything else. Okay. Are there any questions? Did I miss anything that you would like to know about the class? Nobody has any questions? All right, then if you do, remember, just give me a ring or send me an email, and I will be happy to answer those questions. I'm here to help you to get a good grade. I try not to be in your way. If you do the work, you're going to get a good grade. Most of my students get A's and B's. The ones that get C's don't do some of the work. The ones that do D's just don't do much of the work, and the ones that get F's they disappear. Don't disappear. Talk to me. I'm here to help and to get through any situation that you might have come up in your life, and there's a lot of them right now. Maybe that's just because I'm a psychology teacher, but I'm here to try to help you. So I'm done. And if you don't have any questions, then I'll see you on Thursday and we'll start the lectures. Have a good day. Stay safe and healthy. You're welcome, Elijah. Thank you, Jessel. Thanks, Quinn. You too. Have a nice day. You're welcome, Jacob. Class is over. Bye.